Good evening, I'm Mitch Friedman, and welcome to Mind Over Matter TV, where we like to teach you all different kinds of tools and techniques, and yeah, sometimes even tricks, for you to overcome all the obstacles in your life, for you to feel better and reach all your personal goals. Sounds like a pretty good plan, doesn't it? And we're going to help you do that tonight with a really good friend of mine and a colleague, Patrick Singleton. So welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm really excited about doing this. Patrick and I have been friends and colleagues for a while, and he's also a clinical hypnotherapist. But what we're going to talk about today is Patrick is a master of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, as well as a teacher of NLP. Mm-hmm. So let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about NLP. What is NLP?
Okay, so well, you said the words, right? Neuro-linguistic programming. So basically the words are a great way of confusing people and overwhelming them immediately. But really what it boils down to is back in the 70s, there were two men who started studying therapists at that time that were exceptional. People that were getting amazing results. And what was interesting about those people were they were using completely different methods. And yet they were all getting these amazing results. And people were like, how do these people do that? And so they were studying them. And one of those people, his name is John Grinder, who was studying those people, was a professor of linguistics. So he kind of latched on to all of the language and the language patterns that they were using. And his colleague was Richard Bandler, who at that time was into computer science and computer programming, systems theory and that kind of thing. And so they started studying how these people were getting their results. Supposedly, initially, they weren't trying to create a new thing, except that supposedly what they wanted to do was create kind of a common language that if you were a Freudian person and I was a Jung person or a Gestalt person, we would create a set of language that was common that everybody could use, because every little system has its own jargon, and if you don't know, if you're not part of that system, none of the jargon makes any sense. And they wanted to create a way to share ideas initially, but because they were so successful, they actually really did figure out how these people were achieving their results, that it just kept building and growing and became its own discipline.
So how did you get into all of this? How did you get started with NLP?
Well, I was always fascinated by what makes people tick. You know, I mean, for myself and for other people. And when I got older and I started thinking about how do I heal some of my own stuff and my own problems, I started looking into it. And initially I was kind of overwhelmed by it. It seemed too technical until a woman named Connie Ray Andreas came along with a technique called core transformation. And when I read about that, I went, okay, that's it. That's my thing. That's what I need. And that's where I started. And I was so impressed that the following year I went back and got certified as first as a practitioner.
What was the purpose of all of that? What like, if you could put it all into like a phrase or a sentence, what's the purpose of NLP? You say that people had great success at what?
Okay.
What
well,
could it be used for?
Initially it was therapy and communication. But basically what it sort of boils down to is an understanding that anything that people are good at, anything that somebody can do well, anything that they can achieve or accomplish well, that if you study what they're doing in a way that's kind of systematic, you can break it down so that somebody else can duplicate that. Now that's not a new idea. People have been doing that for a long time. If you want to learn something well, go to the person who already does it well. What was different about NLP, and what is different about NLP, is the way that they did that, the way that process of studying, they called it modeling. And out of their modeling these people, they began to produce the same kind of results that the masters were producing without having the training and the background and the years of experience and the learning curve that those people had to go through in order to achieve the same kind of results.
So what are some of the things that NLP can be used for? You talked about core transformation. I know there's a ton of processes in NLP. What are some of the things that could be used for?
Okay, great. So first of all, let me just say that it's kind of divided in half in a way. One big section of NLP is all the language patterns, and that's how to know what types of questions to ask somebody to help them figure out what needs to be changed. And the other half of that is the leading language that you would use like in trance and that kind of thing, how to guide somebody into an experience or that kind of thing. And then the other major chunk of NLP is the processes and techniques. So at this point, like you said, there's tons of processes, tons of techniques, and kind of what's interesting about the way that NLP does that is they're very sort of topic or sort of situation specific. For instance, there's a process, it was originally developed for phobias. And that was one of the early things that NLP was famous for. They used to call it the fast phobia cure, or some people called it the 5-minute phobia cure, et cetera, when the reputation in psychotherapy was years and years, or certainly a long time, to do that. And they were able to achieve that very quickly. So now that same technique with some adaptation can be used for it doesn't have to be just a phobia, it could be any kind of a fear, whether it's a kind of a middle strength fear or a very strong fear or a phobic response, or trauma, getting over the memory of a traumatic event and being able to finally get past that and let that go. So that's a major thing that NLP is useful for. It's also kind of very well known for changing beliefs. So, and of course, beliefs don't affect anybody, right?
Right, and I know you say that so calmly. It's like that's it. I mean, changing beliefs it changes our life. It changes our whole point of attraction.
Right. So it's like, what's the belief that limits you, and how does it limit you, and what else could be possible? So, and it includes both sides of that. In other words, taking a limiting belief and collapsing that so that it's no longer has that power anymore, and then choosing what's a better belief, what's a more useful belief, and taking that so that the person can take that on and step into that and experience what life is like with a whole new way of thinking, a whole new way of looking at something.
And when we're talking about beliefs, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Well, that's a little more specific. Now, that's more along the lines of a sense of identity and self-esteem, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, that's kind of a specialty. When I teach it, we have a whole day devoted just to those types of beliefs. But when I say beliefs in general, it's any other kind of belief, like life isn't safe, you can't trust people, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too stupid, I'll never be able to do it, etc., etc., etc. All those kinds of beliefs about what you're capable of, or about situations or circumstances or other people, all those kind of beliefs also. They're all changeable. Everything is programmable when you understand how the mind works.
And you know what's so amazing about that is that when you're running that program, life is a struggle, or I'm not good enough, or any of those kind of conditionings, you're actually looking through a filter. So you're looking for evidence in the world that it's true all the time, so that your subconscious mind can be right and say, yeah, see, it's really true. Life really is hard. It really is a struggle. And when you change that through some of these really simple techniques that Patrick's talking about, it's amazing. You start looking through a whole different filter, and looking through a filter of, God, life is easy, life is joy, it's fun, I'm good enough, I'm smart. Everything around you starts to change, and it's so powerful. And you have that one technique that you just mentioned about changing the personal identity. That is so powerful. That's my favorite technique. I use it with almost everybody. As soon as we get that belief, let's change it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things as well, because because that idea, whatever somebody believes about yourself, whatever thought that you hold about yourself, that's the thing that goes with you out into the world. So sometimes I'll explain it to people and talk about the difference between say an idea that's characterological versus global, like I suck at math versus I'm stupid.
Right.
You know, if you're a painter, let's say, I suck at math may not have a big impact. You know, hire somebody to do the books or do your taxes, right? But if the belief is I'm stupid, because it's so general, it's not I'm stupid when, or I'm stupid about, or I'm stupid because it's so general, it's like the shadow that goes with you everywhere. And so those are the kinds of beliefs that I really love to change, because then when you flip it from, I'm stupid to I'm intelligent, or I'm not good enough to I am good enough, then the mind, like you said earlier, it's looking for the evidence of I am good enough. Oh, people do like me. It is working, and so on.
And you know what's so cool about that too? It's called transfiguration, is that once you change your belief system, then people around you start treating you as if this new belief is really true.
Right.
And that changes everything.
Well, yeah, because that's how your mind starts gathering evidence.
Right.
right? So it's like now evidence shows up, and that's part of how we make that change, is helping somebody recover the evidence for the positive belief that's already there. Because the truth is, if somebody has a belief that says, I'm not good enough, it's not that they've never experienced people telling them that they are good enough, or telling them even things more powerful than that. It's just that through the filter of that belief, when somebody does say something positive, they don't believe it, they don't trust it, it gets stashed, it gets stored, it's ignored. So in the process, we help them recover that and own it.
And then you get to live out your personal goals. I know for me, I always wanted to teach, and I always wanted to do a TV show, and I just wanted to be up in front of people, doing public speaking, and I was running that I'm stupid thing, and because of that, why would anybody want to hear what I had to say,
Right.
So it really was very limiting in my life, and when I changed that belief, actually we changed that belief, it was amazing how my life changed. I get to teach, I get to have my TV show, and I feel so smart. It really is, it feels so different, and I hear that from people all the time. I feel so different,
And that's it. That's what it's about. And being able to be part of that and facilitate that and watch that, witness that happen in your presence is just so rewarding.
Yeah, and I know you actually get to teach it also. So tell us a little bit about that, about your class, about your teaching.
NLP was the first change technology that I really learned. And I wanted to start a practice, and I rented a space to do a presentation. And the owner of the local hypnotherapy school went to that presentation. Turned out he was looking for somebody to teach NLP as part of the curriculum for the hypnotherapy certification. He liked what I presented. Then he invited me to teach at the school. I taught there for 14 years. I just left this summer. And so being there, I got the chance to teach people from all over the world. And I got to find out, A, how much fun it is. I got to find out that I'm actually good at it. And
really good.
Oh, thank you. And people like it. They like the way I teach. They respond to the way that I present ideas, and that's really rewarding, because even if I had the stamina to see X number of people a day or X number of people a week, which I don't, especially as the years go by, I have less and less stamina to just do that, even though I love it. But even if I could do it at full tilt, there's only a limited number of people that I could ever see on my own.
Right.
But if I teach, and then those people go out and they're all seeing people, then we can multiply the effect of transformation and healing, exponentially.
Right.
And that's what I want, because I want the quality of life on this planet to be better. And the only way that's going to be better is if everybody feels good enough about themselves that everybody can contribute what they really are capable of contributing.
And it seems like such a perfect time for all of this, because things are shifting and changing, and stuff is just coming up for people like crazy. And
especially now, more so than ever.
Yeah. I think we're just being asked right now with the whole Mayan calendar and all these transitions that are happening, we're asked to process a lot of stuff right now in a really short period of time. And so these techniques are so perfect for that, because and especially the NLP. Is a friend of mine, Kyle Wanigman, who also went through the academy, and we did a show, A Soldier to Healer. He calls NLP hypnosis on steroids, which I just love, because it really is. I mean, it's so effective, so quick. And you probably can explain it a little better than me, but it feels like it's actually changing neural pathways in your brain when you're doing this kind of work.
I really think it probably is. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the technology to do the studies on that. I would love to do that, to do scans and see, but I'm pretty convinced as well. I do believe that that's happening in many cases with some of the technology in NLP. And I think it's true because of the way that NLP works.
Right.
Which is based on really, in a kind of a very elegant way, doing everything that's based on the way that the mind works, instead of having to get lost in the drama and the story and all the stuff about it that people get attached to.